Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Welcome back, my friends. Before we get into today's episode, I have very exciting news for you. Food Freedom Academy is opening its doors for its January 2023 enrollment this Friday, January 13th, 2023. This is a 12-week transformative group coaching program for the chronic dieter and restrictor who just wants to feel normal around food again. This program is for you if you're sick and tired of obsessing over food and your body all the time. You're tired of dieting and restricting, feeling deprived and cravings running your entire life. If you want to be able to enjoy foods that you love without guilt, anxiety, or constant fear of losing control, and you really want to become an intuitive eater, but you have no idea how to get there, this program was literally designed for you. Spots are limited because this is a live experience, which means that you have direct access to me, to my coaching, to my methods, and I want to keep this group small and intimate so you get the highest level of support to ensure your success. You'll be surrounded by a community of women just like you on the exact same path as you, sharing the same goals to hold you accountable, encourage you, and support you every step of the way. 10 spots have already been filled up during pre-enrollment, but if you want to learn more about how you can apply for the program, we start January 23rd, 2023. Go to sabrinamagna.com/academy. You'll find all the details there, and you'll also find the details of how you can connect with me, apply for the program, and get started. I will also leave the link in the show notes, and you can connect with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magna Health if you have any questions there. Now, on to today's episode. Today, we are joined by a real life example of what it's like to go from a lifetime of yo-yo dieting, trying everything under the sun, to finally healing your relationship with food, finding food freedom, and becoming an expert intuitive eater. I've been getting a lot of requests of hearing from someone who's not necessarily a coach or has that much knowledge on nutrition and your metabolism and food. And so I brought on one of my past Food Freedom Academy members. Nancy was part of my group exactly a year ago. January 2022 is when she joined the Food Freedom Academy, and she is here to share her story. It doesn't matter if you're new to intuitive eating or you've been diving into it and trying to implement it for a couple of months, a couple of years now. I have no doubt that you are going to get so much out of this interview with Nancy as she shares some of the lessons that she's learned over our time together and since we stopped working together. So I'm going to stop blabbing and get into today's interview with the wonderful Nancy. So today we are joined by someone really special to me. She is one of my past Food Freedom Academy members. We worked together almost a year ago now, which is crazy to think how fast that went. And we've obviously kept in touch ever since. I love to get to know my clients on a personal level. I really care about every single person I work with. And so I'm really excited to invite Nancy here today to talk about her story, her past with dieting, so that hopefully you can learn some of the lessons that she had to learn kind of the hard way throughout years and years of dieting, and what are some of the things that she really took away over our time working together, so that hopefully you can take some of that into your own life and walk away and start applying that so that you can experience some of the things that Nancy has been experiencing in the past year. So Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you and your podcasts. I mean, they're amazing. I've been listening to them and they're just amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. As I was telling you before, I've been having so much fun. Doing this podcast is something that I put a lot of love and passion into. And I'm thrilled to know that it's helping people. And I'm thrilled to be able to have amazing guests, like you. And so
Thank you.
I would love if we can start by having you introduce yourself and kind of tell us your story with dieting and what you had gone through before you reached out to me a year ago at this point to start working with me.
Okay. Again, my name is Nancy. I live right around the Boston, Massachusetts area. I think I was thinking about, everything that I went through since I was a little girl and growing up in an Italian family where food is everything. And it was just really important to my parents. It was important socially with my friends and everything to have this certain physique. And I look back now and I don't even think I was heavy in any way when I look back now on those pictures. But of course, going through everybody thinks their body image is a little different than what we really are. So I've tried everything. I've done Weight Watchers, I've done Noom, I've done keto, I've done Octavia, fasting, and counting calories and counting proteins and carbs and macros and all of it, all of it. And the funny thing is they all worked for me. I'm a very structured person and they all worked for me. However, there reached a point where I would lose the weight, but it all came back over time, over sometimes months, sometimes 6 months, but eventually it all came back. And it was really frustrating, just down on yourself as to why, I couldn't keep this up. It was rigid. I wasn't going out on social events with my husband, my friends. Because I had to count the calories, it was just too much stress for me. And I reached a low point. I'm turning 60 next year and, I just wanted to have this behind me and finally just reached that point where it just wasn't a part of my life anymore, that I didn't have to think about it. So I started seeing your posts on Facebook and I kept just listening to you and I kept debating, is this the one thing I'm going to try and it'll work? And of course it's going to work, but then I'm going to gain it back and blah, blah, blah. And it's not, your program isn't about weight loss. It's not at all. It's a totally different mind shift than what I was used to. And for me, like I was telling you earlier, I don't feel as heavy, and I don't mean that in a weight way. I meant in my life, in my heart, in my energy levels, in my mind. I feel lighter going through your program. Mm-hmm. It was just a freeing thing for me. And I came to peace with everything, and I understand my issues with food, my past issues with food, I should say. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thank God that I take it. I took that course. I really am so thankful for you and all you have taught me, because we struggled. We struggled. I struggled with body image. Yeah. I struggled with potato chips. But I overcame all that.
Yeah.
I'm in such a better place right now.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I have so many things. I mean, it just warms my heart every time I hear you speak and I hear your story. I know that you mentioned you grew up being convinced that there was something wrong with your body. And that's how most body image issues and most diets start, right? It is this desire to fix our body, to quote unquote gain control of our weight. And we think the only way to do that is to control our food. And I absolutely understand why anyone would think that way. It doesn't take very long to go online to do a little Google search, and you hear all this advice of cut out carbs and count your calories and have more willpower, that it just makes sense to us. Okay, if I want to control my weight, if I want to control my health, I need to control my food. At what age did this start for you? Was it in your 20s? Was it after having kids?
Oh no, it was probably 13, 14 where I started hearing it from relatives because I have a brother and a sister, and they are really, really like skinny. Weight has never been an issue for them. For me, it wasn't that way. So I would hear it from relatives like, oh, here's the chubby one. Or so it started really, really young for me where I was aware that I was probably, or I thought that I wasn't where I should be. So it started pretty young where I started, my mother was on Weight Watchers, so I started following her and what she ate and things
Mhm.
like that. So it started a really young age. And then, of course, you have kids. I lost the weight from the kids with Weight Watchers, and it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
It was just going up and down all the time. And that's the thing I wish I could relate to everybody is how much damage that does to your body when you keep dieting and losing the weight and gaining and losing. It does so much damage to your body. And that was the hardest thing for me to accept
Yeah.
going through your program because I just reached a point where it just wasn't, nothing was working anymore.
Yeah, and I remember that was something that was hard for you to come to terms with. I remember you having some sadness and some regret over the 40 years that you had spent unknowingly harming your body and unknowingly doing all of these things that led to you feeling more obsessed with food. And I remember you having a lot of negative emotion about your past self, and that was something that you had to overcome as well.
Right. And that was really difficult, as you know. How many tears did I cry? I mean, it's just socially, it's such a huge environment out there that attacks you every day. And the best thing I did was stop following all those people on Instagram and Facebook and that are all about weight loss. This is the way I did it. And that,
Yeah.
it took me a while to realize that though. I wish I
Mhm.
had known it years ago. I
Yeah.
really, really do.
And when you were doing all of those diets, the Weight Watchers, the Noom, the Optavia, was there part of you that knew this is not sustainable? I can't keep living this way my whole life, but when I lose the weight, then I'll be able to just go back to normal eating. Then things will just kind of fall into place. Did you have that kind of mentality?
Exactly. You nailed it. That's exactly how it was. There's no way you could survive on Octavia. It's like eating bird food. And and the thing is, like they tell you, okay, just get through the first 3 days because then you go into ketosis and but it's no way to live.
Yeah.
It's just no way to live. I wasn't happy. I was angry. I was depressed. I felt lost, like I just didn't know where to turn or what would work.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I'm sure you go online and you are trying to figure this out. You just want to feel comfortable in your body. As you age, you probably start worrying about your health as well. And you're like, okay, this is not just about weight. I have to get healthy. But what do I do? Because there's 10 different people telling me 10 different things. And when you're trying to figure this out on your own and you don't have much knowledge about nutrition or about what is true and what's not, you kind of just have to take things at face value, not knowing if it's fact checked or if it's gonna work, or most importantly, you see the before and after pictures, but you don't see the before, after, and after 5 years later, 5 months later, when they've gained all that weight back.
right. They should do like a where are they now type
Yeah.
thing,
I think there's a
Yeah,
reason why they don't do that
right,
because the diet
right,
industry would crumble if that happened.
right. But I mean, you brought that to our attention. And I look at ads differently now. And you brought that to our attention. And that was just something I wasn't aware of because they're
Yeah.
skilled at what they're saying to you.
And not only do you not see the before and after pictures, 5 years later, but even when you see the before and after, when they've lost the weight, you don't see what's going on internally. And that's a huge piece of my program. When people come to this program, the main thing I hear is, I don't want to have my entire life revolve around food and my body anymore. I cannot keep thinking, wake up, and the first thing I think about is what I'm going to eat that day. And so when you join my program, in terms of your relationship with food and your mindset around food and the things you were struggling with, whether it was cravings or binging or any of that, where were you at?
I was at a low point, I gotta say. It was just there's nothing out there anymore. I'm weak. It was internal, like I was blaming myself that it was my fault. And I was blaming myself and just I'm a loser. I can't do this. And my relationship with food is the funny thing is I eat really well. My husband and I work out 3 days a week, so we live really healthy lifestyles. But the weight's there, so and we may go out on, one night a week and I just was tired of wanting what I not having what I wanted rather than eating what I should, and it left me even more frustrated, and then I'd want to come home and eat more because I was frustrated or angry at the whole thing.
Yeah. And at
Yeah.
what point, I know that this is a big thing. There's two things that you just said. Number one is I work with a lot of successful women, right? Like these women who are smart, who are successful, who are ambitious, who have full-time jobs and they're moms and they're good moms. And these are women who have so many reasons to have this confidence and this self-esteem. And they all say the same thing, which is, I feel like I should be able to figure this out. I'm smart, and yet no matter what, I just can't seem to get this one piece into place. And you're one of those people who you're so smart, you're so successful, you have a really good head on your shoulders. And did you ever feel that of like, I'm failing at this. Why am I failing at this?
Right. 100%. I felt that all the time. And I just thought there was just no plan that was going to work for me long term, that
Hmm.
I wanted to live my life like that. I think one of the turning points for me was when you had said to me, if you picture yourself when you're 80 years old in a rocking chair on top of on your
Front
porch.
porch.
Right. And you said, when you look back on your life, what are you going to see in the struggles? Like, I've so much time and so much effort into this for what? For what?
Hmm.
It's just, it's all consuming. It's all
Yeah.
consuming. Or it was all consuming, I should say now.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is working. Like again, it's not a weight loss program, but your eyes get opened a little bit more each day. The more you continue to be mindful and practice the techniques you showed us, the hunger scale, that whole thing was amazing for me. It just was huge.
Hmm.
And now it's kind of like second nature now. I'm so far
Yeah.
along from it,
Yeah.
from where
Um,
I was.
One thing that a lot of people fear when it comes to intuitive eating, they've done the diets, they've failed, and they get to a point where they feel like, what's the point of trying one more thing, right? Like, I've already wasted so much time and money on things that have only made me worse off and waste all of this precious time in my life. At this point, one more thing is just going to be another failure. So there's like this fear of just failing again. And what if this doesn't work for me? Did you have that fear before investing in the program?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It was, I know you're probably going to ask me next what convinced me to start it. I mean, our one-on-one was great. And I just, you had such a positive message. And at first I was taken aback by the fact that you said this is not a weight loss program. But after I started thinking about it, I was like, thank God it's not a weight loss program.
Yeah.
And changing my mindset. And it just struck out to me. It just hit a nerve. And I said, one more time, something's
Yeah.
got to work one more
Yeah.
time.
And
Yeah.
so the main buckets of issues that people come to me with before they start the program is overeating and binging. They feel like they can't control themselves around food. They have a hard time being consistent with habits. So kind of
Mhm.
that yo-yoing, you're restricting for a couple of weeks and you're good and on plan, and then you're
Right.
completely off the rails. Emotional eating, all of these, and body image, of course. I know that you had a hard time trusting yourself around food. And there was a couple of moments throughout the program where you did some of the experiments that I recommended, and you had that moment of, oh my God, okay, wow, this is working, and I never would have been able to do this in the past. Do you remember some of those moments for you?
Oh gosh. You want me to tell you those moments? Is that
Yeah.
what you said? Well, my biggest weakness, or my biggest weakness, was potato chips. And you had suggested to go out and get a bag of potato chips and leave them in the house and just see how you did. And
Right, because you were the kind of person who, if you have a quote unquote weakness, I'm gonna keep it out of the house so that
correct,
out of the mind, out of sight, out of mind, right?
correct, correct. So, the first day I think I had like a turkey sandwich and I put a few chips on it. And I was lying in bed that night thinking, I know they're there. And just trying to talk to myself, do you really want them? Because if you really want them, you can go and get a couple more. But I didn't really want them. And that was a huge moment for me. I know it doesn't sound like much, but when you take out the restrictions, the desire isn't as strong
Hmm.
anymore. And that's a hard concept that I never thought I'd fall into. But it definitely works. It definitely works.
And that's another big fear, that there's the what if it doesn't work for me, but then the second fear is, if I take away the restrictions. I know for me, I was so scared to stop calorie counting because I thought, I know exactly how many calories are in each of my meals right now. If I don't know how many calories are in there, I'm going to end up overeating because I didn't know how to listen to my body. I didn't know how to trust it. And that's a
Right.
lot of people. They think, if I don't have the rules, cuz you're the same, you like structure, you like plans,
Right.
and that's like the classic. You've seen the people who join this program. It's like the classic, like, perfectionist, all or nothing. And there is that fear of, if I don't have the restrictions, I'm just going to eat everything. And
Right.
I think that through this program, you probably learned that the reason why you end up eating over everything is because of the restriction, not because there's something wrong with you.
Exactly. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't even crave those foods anymore. Like, and it's okay if I do, though. And that's the beauty of it. If I feel like having a cookie, I don't feel so guilty about having that cookie anymore. It's just a cookie,
Yeah.
and so what? Like, it all balances out at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I was talking to someone this morning, a new member for our January 2023 group, and she was saying she went on this one diet that told her that she couldn't eat carrots, she couldn't eat corn because it said that it was too high in sugar.
Right.
And now she's looking back on it and she's thinking, I actually thought for a second, I was convinced into thinking that I looked the way I looked, or I struggled with my weight because of carrots, because of how many carrots I was
Carrots,
eating.
right? Isn't that crazy?
It's just, I think that if people can take away anything from this, it's like, when you look at the foods that you eating, diet culture makes you micromanage and think of the singular food and make you think that the one cookie, even if you have one cookie a day, that it's going to be those tiny things that are going to affect your health, when really what we teach in the program is how to zoom out on your nutrition and look at things in the grand scheme of things. And you're actually more likely to overeat on those quote unquote bad foods that obviously we don't use that word in the program.
Right,
Um,
right. No bad
when
food.
yeah, when you restrict yourself and not when you give yourself unconditional permission to eat them.
Right, right.
Yeah. So now it's been, I mean, almost a year
Sure.
since the program. So how have you felt ever since then? Because I know this is another fear is, okay, I'm with you for 3 months, but after that, like, I'm just gonna go right back to my old habits because
Right,
that's the pattern that people are used to when it comes to
right.
dieting. How has your life changed in the past year?
Well, once we finished our program, I was scared. You knew
Hmm.
that. Um, it was just so nice to touch base with you once, twice a week.
Hmm.
And I reached out to you and we had a couple of sessions, and that was just reassuring. And it's a slow process, but if you take in all the tools and do all the worksheets that you have, which I tend to not believe, but I did them, and they do work. And at this point in my life, I am lighter in my heart, in my mind. I'm freer. I don't have those restrictions. I don't have that anxiety anymore. Even Christmas coming up now, and I'm in charge of all desserts, but I'm okay. It's like whatever. And I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm not fearful of it anymore. And if I have a bad day, which they really don't happen anymore, but if I do, it's okay.
Yeah.
I can have a piece of cake. I'm not going to have 10 pieces of cake because I know how I feel after the one piece of cake, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And so it's all things that I think your body gets used to. I think you start craving the good foods. And if you have too many bad foods, you actually don't feel that great. Um, but it's still okay. They're not off limits. And
Yeah.
that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
So I'm in such a great place thanks to you.
I mean,
Program.
that makes me so happy. Oh, and I just thought about now that you're gonna come visit me in Montreal in a couple of months, so we'll get to meet in person.
Yes, I think we're trying either April, May, or September, October. So
Oh, I'm so
there's 10
excited.
of us, so we have to try and get everybody together and what works for everybody. And yeah,
Oh, that will
yeah,
be so fun. That will be
that
so
would be
fun.
so fun to see you. Yes.
Yeah. And I know that I just got to meet your husband for the first time today. You talked about him all the time on our calls. He was so incredibly supportive of you doing
Yes.
this. Not everyone that I talk to has that gift of having a supportive husband. And a lot of them think that my husband is just not going to be on board with this because I've done all these different things. And so what has your husband noticed about you throughout this program, after this program?
I think he has noticed my confidence level has definitely improved, and he's also noticed that I used to, if we had an event to go to, I used to come out and try on like 3 or 4 different outfits. And then I'd say to him, which one looks the best? And he would say to me, well, which one is the most comfortable? And I would say, no, that's not the point. The point is which one looks the best.
Hmm.
And he was saying, I want you to pick the one that's more comfortable. And that was his response all the time. And now I don't even ask him anymore. I pick what I feel is the most comfortable, and just the confidence level of being fine the way I look. And there are times I still struggle with my body image, but each day is different. You can look in the mirror one day, as you've said, and look totally different the next day. So that changes, and I've learned to accept that. So if I'm having a bad body image day one day, I'll just say, well, let's do it again tomorrow and see where that leads us, and it changes and it changes. But he's noticed how much happier I am.
Mm-hmm.
not struggling with that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about body image, one thing that's so important is to realize that, first of all, body image issues happen at every body size. And like you said, there's always going to be bad days. There's always going to be those days where you look in the mirror and you're like, you know what? Today's just a day where I'm gonna avoid mirrors. And I do that too on
Right.
I'm usually pretty confident, but of course there's
Right.
gonna be days where I look in the mirror and I'm like, you know what? Today body checking is definitely gonna be off the table.
Right.
Um
Right.
and I think that's really important is like no matter what size you're in, no matter what your body looks like, no matter how good your body image is, because of course we walk you through how to heal your body image. There's still gonna be some days that are gonna be tough. And learning how to handle those days the way that I described it to you guys in the program is like the days where you have a bad hair day. You don't let it ruin your day. You don't let it ruin your mood. It's just like, okay, my hair looks like crap today, and I'm
Right.
just gonna move
Right.
on.
Exactly. That's perfect. And also through the program and even my husband, like we're not judgmental as much anymore. Not that I'm a bad person and judge heavier people, but you just look at people differently now and just say you don't know what their struggles are, and you're more accepting and more caring and more, you know, more understanding that we don't know what struggles they're going through. And that can be for a heavier person or a really skinny person, because I know both. And sometimes the skinnier person isn't as healthy either. So
Yeah.
overall, I think it's just compassion and that we've learned. And it's great. It's
Yeah.
great.
I know that you just mentioned we're talking about body size. One of the biggest mind shifts that also happen in this program is understanding that your weight is not synonymous with your health, and that a lot of people are convinced that if I want to be healthier, a lot of people are afraid. They have heart disease or high cholesterol or diabetes in their family, and they think I couldn't possibly do intuitive eating because I have all these health issues. And what we teach is that intuitive eating can be used no matter what your medical conditions are. And so was that something that was hard for you to understand or to come to terms to? Because I know you mentioned you went to the doctor lately and you're healthier than you've ever been and you were not even trying. And so was that something that learning that being in a smaller body doesn't necessarily mean you're healthier and that you can be healthy at a bigger size, was that something that was hard for you?
It is hard for me, and it's still hard for me. When you see my husband, he's so fit. Like we go to the gym 3 days a week and he's really, really fit. And I am too. But when you look at all my cholesterol levels, my blood pressure, I am like right on, like I'm in such a good place, but he's got a high blood pressure and he's got, high cholesterol. And, but you would never know that by looking at us,
Hmm.
and believe me, it's not like I look at myself and think, holy, cow, she's got so much to lose, but I'm in a good place and I'm okay with that,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. So
So, last question I would like to ask, and I ask this to a lot of my guests, is knowing now, I know that you started dieting when you were 13. At that point, you probably weren't super aware of what you were doing. It probably happened, there was a little bit more awareness in your 20s and 30s.
right.
Knowing now what you know after doing this program, and for anyone who is in that spot where they want to stop dieting, but they're afraid and they don't know what to do, what would you say to that past version of yourself? Like if future Nancy got to talk to past Nancy,
That's Nancy.
what would you say?
Oh, I I would say to stop dieting. It does so much damage to your physical body, your mental body. I think mentally it did a lot of damage to me. Um, it just takes up so much energy and so much of your time that could be better spent caring for yourself. As I just wish I knew this when I was in my 20s. I'm happy that I definitely found it, but I wish I had found it when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s,
Yeah,
But that's
absolutely.
okay. I got it at the time that I needed to get it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's
And
okay.
I think that sometimes coming from me, it's hard because I am a little bit younger and I haven't, done the 40 years of dieting. So I can't exactly relate to what it feels like to have 40 years of feeling like a failure and then truly getting to a point of rock bottom where you don't want to try anything else because you've lost hope. But
Right.
as someone who has been through that, who can speak to someone who is a chronic dieter listening right now, they can relate to their story, they feel seen, they feel heard, and you could like talk to them directly, what would you say?
I would say, first of all, it's not your fault. Um, I believe media and the social world out there is targeting people like us. It's not a healthy way to be. It's not, for me, life is too short, especially as I'm on the second end of it now. um, and I want to live my best life, and I don't want to be sad about it anymore. It's just not worth it. And your program is not an unhealthy way to go. It's a very healthy way to go. And it's so worth it. It will change people's lives if they do it. And it's time to end all the dieting and put that message out there that those do more damage to you than
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Well, you, that is such a powerful message. And I know that anyone who's listening to this can definitely relate to that story and hopefully that they can take that in and start applying that into their own lives. Nancy, you are such an inspiration. I loved working with you and I still considering you as a friend and getting to talk to you every couple of weeks.
Same. Same.
You're awesome. And thank you so much for being on this podcast. Thank you to everyone here for listening. And we will see you all on the next episode. So again, thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing your story and your wisdom with all of my listeners. And if you are inspired by Nancy's story and you want to learn more about the exact steps that she took to get to where she is now, then I invite you to apply to Food Freedom Academy. We start January 23rd. Spots are limited, so to learn more about the program, go to sabrinamagna.com/academy. Link will be posted in the show notes, or you can connect with me on Instagram at sabrina.magna.health. Send me a DM and I would be more than happy to talk to you. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magna Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.